What's up, everyone? Welcome to Political Fight Club. I'm Robert Durden, and in this episode we're going to be talking about how the petrodollar is going to collapse even further, the economic war that is basically being perpetuated by the United States against the BRICS nations, China, South Africa, Russia, India, all of those, Brazil. Those are all starting to shift in favor of BRICS. And one of the big things that started about 10 days ago is that Putin decided to start selling oil to all countries in the EU, but also countries like India, if they agreed to pay for the oil in rubles, so Russian currency. And India actually agreed that they would buy a significant portion of their oil in rubles. And you may have seen the ruble, the Russian currency, has bounced back and is actually more valuable today, as of today, than it was before this war started on February 24th. So the sanctions aren't working, and gas prices, meanwhile, here in America are off the charts. America is losing this economic war, and it's going to get far worse because Americans, the people we have running our banking system and our financial system, are just like, they're blunt objects. They're a lot of Wall Streeters, the heads of Goldman Sachs, whatever. China and Russia have the ability to think 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 steps ahead when it comes to this stuff, and the next step has just dropped. This is via Bloomberg. Now China is paying for a lot of their oil in Yuan, their currency. So they're buying from Russia in their currency, and it looks as though Saudi Arabia might also be tongue-in-cheek. No, not tongue-in-cheek. It hasn't been validated yet, but they're in talks with Beijing to also start selling oil in Yuan. For the petrodollar. So all of these countries, the BRICS nations, but all other countries as well, are now agreeing to kind of align with the East when it comes to buying oil in currency that is not the dollar. And the petrodollar is the petrodollar for a reason. It's backed up by oil. It's not on the gold standard anymore. It's backed up by oil. That's what gives it its value. So if they all start buying in their own currencies and giving value back to their own currencies, which we already know is exactly what's going to happen because the ruble's already rebounded, the petrodollar is going to collapse here pretty soon because of what Joe Biden Inc. are doing, because they're fools, because they don't know how to think 2 or 3 steps in front of their face, and they also don't give a shit about what their sanctions backfiring do to the people in this country, in the United States, so long as they can continue to make it uncomfortable for the Russian population, which that's not going to work. I don't know if you know anything about Russian history, but they're able to lock down and deal with harsh conditions for long periods of time. Americans, if their Netflix goes down for 10 minutes, they're about to die. So they're going to outlast us. Our country's people are going to suffer more than a lot of these other countries. And if, for instance, Germany doesn't get their head on straight and start dealing with Russia, if they don't buckle and make a deal, they're going to get their gas shut off. And it's going to be awful for the people of Germany as well. And it might be awful for the people of the United States because we're having to bail out countries like Germany who are too stubborn to make deals with Russia. So, long story short here, guys, let's read to you what's happening with the Chinese and how they're now buying Russian oil and coal with their currency. This comes from Bloomberg, believe it or not. This came out 2 days ago. Russian coal and oil paid for in yuan is about to start flowing into China as the two countries try to maintain their energy trade in the face of growing international outrage over the invasion of Ukraine. Several Chinese firms used local currency to buy Russian coal in March, and the first cargoes will arrive this month, Chinese consultancy Fenway Energy Information Service Co. said. These will be the first commodity shipments paid for in yuan since the U.S. and Europe penalized Russia and cut several of its banks off from the international financing system, according to traders. That's the SWIFT system. Sellers of Russian crude have also offered to give buyers in Asia's largest economy the flexibility to pay for it in yuan. The first cargoes of the ESPO grade bought with the Chinese currency will be delivered to independent refiners in May, according to people familiar with the purchases. China has long bristled at the dollar's dominance in global trade, and the political leverage it gives the U.S. efforts to chip away at the status quo are now being accelerated by Western steps to punish Russia for its war of aggression. Moscow is offering rupee-ruble payments to Indian oil buyers, and this last part is what I was alluding to earlier, while Saudi Arabia is in talks with Beijing to price some of its crude in yuan. Uh-oh for the petrodollar. Now, as somebody that does not own a lot of dollars because I'm poor as shit, this doesn't scare me a whole lot, but it does make me fearful for people in this country. Like, how much turmoil are we really willing to go through? Poor people are going to be poor, but here's the thing. Consumer prices are going to go up to reflect the loss in value that the dollar has. So remember, the longer we keep up this sanction war with Russia, gas prices are continuing to go up because of inflation, but also because of the war. And just wait. As soon as we have to suddenly bail out some of these other countries that don't work with Russia in Europe, West Europe, like Germany, for instance, if we have to step in and help them, and Biden has even alluded and said so in public that we might have to go out and help them, gas prices are going to go up a lot in this country, even beyond that. So that plus inflation, you're going to see consumer product prices in this country off the charts. I'm talking 40, 60% increases in a lot of things. I don't know if you've noticed, but even the food prices are going up. Like a gallon of milk is more expensive than it was this time last year. Fruits and vegetables are about to skyrocket in how much they cost because the United States, people that farm in the United States get a lot of their fertilizer imported from Russia, which they will no longer get because of Biden's sanctions. So you don't have fertilizer. Farmers are going to have to spend a lot more buying American or non-BRIC nation fertilizer from out of the country, and that costs a lot more money. And that means that the farmers are going to have to charge a lot more for their fruits and vegetables that they're growing for us to eat. So as soon as you see some of these things, it's like $5 for a bell pepper. Remember, that's because of the sanctions we put on Russia. We didn't have to go this way. But again, the United States, people that run our finance system and that are like Joe Biden, they're dimwits. They're psychopaths and they're dimwits. They don't give a shit about how much it's going to backfire on us so long as they can keep the eye on Russia, try to demonize Putin as much as humanly possible, make him out to be Hitler, and if they can keep blaming everything on him, and we're all too stupid in this country to realize that it's actually the United States self-inflicting these wounds and starting up and escalating an economic war with China that we cannot win, you start to realize that we're being lied to, and these people don't know what they're doing. They're leading us off the edge of a cliff. The petrodollar is about to nosedive off of that cliff, and it has all to do with us not backing off, not giving Putin what he wants, which is pretty simple. You allow Crimea to be part of Russia. You allow the Donbass region to vote on, they become independent republics, and they get to vote on their leaders. And you have it written into the constitution of Ukraine that they will never join NATO. Even then, you might even get a deal where Zelensky can even remain president if they were to do that. And all we'd have to do is that, and a lot of this stuff would probably be eased. But the longer the war goes on, and the longer that Biden keeps sending billions of dollars to the Ukraine, the Azov battalion, but the rest of their military as well, we're funding a quagmire that is going to bleed us dry. They're going to try to bleed Russia dry, but Russia's wheeling and dealing and doing just fine. Their currency is rebounded fine. But if Saudi Arabia is already talking about selling oil to China in yuan, if you know anything about economics, Saudi Arabia does a lot of stuff with us. They operate under the petrodollar. They kind of serve as almost like protectors of the value of the petrodollar. They start selling everything in yuan at a discount to China. Look out. Look the fuck out. So this doesn't necessarily... it scares me because things are going to get worse before it gets better in this country. But again, this is such a mask-off moment. And as long as we can make sure that everybody understands that the United States is doing this to itself, maybe we emerge from this ash heap stronger. Maybe we, can agree that we're never going to put somebody that's going to be aggressive with these powerful nuclear powers again in office. Maybe we learn our lesson. Maybe there's a revolution in this country because gas prices get so high, or the price for food gets so high, or there's a literal like food shortage. Is that the type of thing that sparks millions, tens of millions of people to get in the streets? Yeah, it is. That's one of those things that is it's highly motivating. So if it turns out that that's what happens this summer, if we're gonna get really, really poor and really, really uncomfortable, but that leads us to a revolution in this country, I'm good with that too. So I almost, I'm not cheering for this, but I'm interested to see exactly what kind of protests and activist events are happening over the next year as consumer product prices go through the roof because Joe Biden caused them to. It'll be interesting to see. So keep fighting that good fight out there, guys. I'll post a link to this below. It's a very short article. I read you the whole thing. But the petrodollar's in trouble. The way that we pay for things in this country is going to change drastically here in the future, and the value of our currency is going to go down quite a bit, probably for the not just the very near future, but probably maybe forever. There might be a crash similar to the Depression. We'll just have to see how bad it gets. So the more these countries decide to wheel and deal and accept foreign currencies for oil, the petrodollar is going to keep tumbling. That's the way things work. So I'll talk to you guys later. Keep fighting that good fight.